I want to talk about a TV show called From, and it's a TV show that is, I think, very underrated. Not a lot of people even know about it, really. But when I decided to turn it on, I binged all 3 seasons in just a couple days. So yeah, it's that good, and I've got a lot to say about it. A lot of good things, a lot of confusing things, which I would love to know your opinions on. And speaking of which, thank you all for liking and subscribing to my Fallout series. I covered the entire Fallout TV show just a couple months ago. And yeah, I mean, let's get into it. To put it very basically, the show it's a horror, I can't say that word, TV show. It's a scary TV show, and it's pretty creepy. I like it a lot. Good jump scares and stuff like that. So what is the premise of the show? Basically, you randomly enter a town. You're driving through the road and you notice that you're not leaving the town. You're looping. You're going around and around. It has that Blair Witch effect going on, basically. The worst part, though, is that at night, there are these things, I don't know if you want to call them people or not. They're very creepy people. No, the creepy things, I'll say. They come out at night and they slowly walk toward you. As long as you stay indoors, you should be safe, theoretically, right? As long as you don't let them in. And they try to let them in. And they try to make you open the doors, by talking to you, by trying to trick you, convince you kind of deal, right? But if you do that, you die. So that's the premise of the show. Very simple initially, and I want to talk about that, and I'll really get into that later. A very interesting plot, and sometimes it's all you need. Episode 1 kind of begins with like, okay, it's getting dark, it seems like a regular town. There's this character named Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. Good night.
She works at the diner. You can see her kind of putting a rock on the wall there. Strange rock. What does a rock mean? Maybe nothing. No, it means something. It means something. We'll get to the rock later. There are a lot of mysteries in this show, and I'm hoping the show writers can solve them all. I'll get into that later. But okay, it's nighttime. Everybody's closing shop. Everything seems normal. You can see Boyd. Boyd is the sheriff of the town. He's basically the leader of the group. There's kind of 2 leaders. There's a woman named Donna, but we'll get introduced to her character later. But yeah, no, basically Boyd is walking throughout the streets, ringing a bell, telling everybody to get inside. And there's a great reason for that.
Checkmate.
Yeah, you got me.
There's a character that we see, basically, okay, there's a deputy sheriff. His name is Kenny. His father you see them there playing chess, right? Don't get too attached to Kenny's father because it's, this show has a really great intro, and it's like has a very iconic scene in the beginning. Kind of tells you what this show is all about. And it involves this character named Frank, who at the moment is passed out at the bar.
Come on, Frank. Gotta get home.
He's drunk. He's not going anywhere. That's going to have some major consequences. And we'll talk about what that means exactly, because it's a little odd. I don't know.
Is Daddy coming home?
Any second now.
But this is where there's this creepy scene. The kid hears something calling her name at the window.
Megan, it's Grandma. Come to the window.
It's just like, there's this person outside the window pretending to be her grandma. That's not actually her, right? Those things outside, their entire goal is to trick you into letting them in. That kid's father is actually at the bar, and he should be home right now, kind of like, I don't know, paying attention, kind of just making sure everybody's safe kind of deal, right? There's also something else he should have done, which was nail the window shut, because that window doesn't say shut. She opens it, and
I've missed you so much. Maybe I can come in.
yeah, it's quite a massacre. Everybody dies in that scene. Well, not the monster. There's no escape, pretty much, right? Like, once the window's open, the creature gets in. There is no escape. Those things are incredibly strong. Even if you shut the door of the bedroom, that door's coming down. Like, once it's in, you are screwed. There is no way out. Like, the next day, everybody discovers the body, and it's a crazy scene. It's very gruesome. This show, it doesn't pull any punches when it comes to that. Boyd, the sheriff, he's the one that discovers the body. The sheriff grabs Frank, right? And he's super pissed.
You nail the window shut.
And understandably, a family was basically murdered. But I don't know if it's okay, so Boyd here, I'll call him the sheriff for now, right? The sheriff is blaming Frank, and he's dragging him throughout the house, look, he's making him look at this stuff because he thinks that Frank is completely responsible for what happened. Basically, he should have been home. He was warned several times, it turns out, to board up his window. or at least nail them shut kind of deal. I feel like it's not entirely his fault because, you know, his wife also lived there. So it's like, well, okay, does she get no responsibility for this? Why is it all Frank's fault? She was there. I don't know. I feel like how long was that family living there? I feel like it was for a little bit because Frank later talks about how he was like, this place degrades you as you live there long enough, couple months at least. And that window was never boarded up until now. What do you think? Do you think Frank is guilty here?
You know what I was thinking about this morning? The first time we drove up to see your folks.
But that tragedy aside, another one's coming in. This shot is edited in a way where it seems like this character, this guy that looks like Paul Rudd for some reason, is going to be the main character of the show. And honestly, he has the acting chops to be the main character. It turns out it's not really written to make him that though. He also really looks like the guy from Alan Wake, especially Alan Wake 2, where they're doing the video sequences. I don't know. I had to look it up. I looked at IMDb. I was like, this is Alan Wake. He's just some random guy.
Why is there a tree in the middle of the road?
But yeah, the family encounters some very iconic scenes that are going to be referenced throughout the show. So there's the crows that you see in the sky, and these are mysteries that are being set up that I'm hoping is explained in some way. And I'm adding up the mysteries because there's a long list, and there's a tree blocking the road. Also, I don't understand the I don't know, logistics of it because you get trapped in the town. So imagining like there's a single road going straight through the town, but then there's a tree in the center of the road. Is that blocking your entrance from the town, blocking you from exiting it? Where is that tree? I guess it's just a random turn with a tree on it.
I came to see my son, Donna.
Boyd, the sheriff, he has an estranged son. The son doesn't really talk to him, and there is actually a pretty good reason for that. But yeah, there's a funeral procession going on for the family that was murdered by those things outside, and that's when they notice Paul Rudd and his family are driving throughout the town. They're going in a loop, and like they know this is the hard part because they've all been there. They've all encountered the situation where they can't escape.
Well, we got on a detour off the highway, and cell service around here is...
Got your family with you?
The sheriff eventually just kind of gives them directions like, yeah, keep following the road. And it's kind of like, yeah, how would you exactly, there's no real way to, other than that, to break it down like, yeah, you're trapped. They're letting them discover that for themselves, basically, right?
Keep on following the road right up that hill, right where you were going.
But this is where something weird happens. I don't get the logic here, but it's like, okay, so the sheriff kind of told them to keep driving. And now they're noticing they're going to loop. They're kind of freaking out in the car, right?
Wait. Did we turn somewhere?
The sheriff goes to his deputy and is like, all right, it's time we just kind of stop them because they're going in a loop. So instead of waving them down like, hey, stop, like good in front of the car, why did they lay out spikes to blow out the tires of the vehicle? That's what they did. And it's like, that's a bit extreme, don't you think? The RV that Paul Rudd's driving collides with another vehicle, and that other vehicle has a character in it, and it's one of my favorite characters. It's like one of the major three that are going on in this show. But yeah, Tony Stark, Iron Man, he's in the car, or at least his twin. It's like a guy, he has the exact same personality as Robert Downey Jr., so he's Iron Man to me.
Julie, I need you to look at me.
Everybody's sort of okay, except for the kid who has like a big metal rod in his leg. Other than that, I think he'll probably be fine, right? So the sheriff noticing like, okay, so one of the people from the car, this is Jade's friend. Jade is the guy in the back of the car that I call Tony, Iron Man. This guy walks up to the sheriff. He's like, there's been an accident. The sheriff heads over there and he notices the guy in the back of the truck, the SUV kind of thing. And that guy is high out of his mind. You could be confused for a sec because it's like, it's kind of seems like he's concussed. Has a concussion, but no, he's straight up high. And the sheriff decides to handcuff him to the car. This is where something very interesting happens. They decide for the first time, apparently, to use these rocks. Now, these rocks are called talismans in this show. The talismans are, we can sort of explain where they're found later, I guess. But I mean, what I just said, they're found. That's pretty much all the explanation, actually. So these rocks are found by the sheriff in the woods. They are talismans, and they just keep the monsters out. Now, you got to be hanging it off a wall, basically, in order for it to work. You can't just be in your pocket. It's got to be attached to the surface of the room you're in. So they're trying to do that for the RV, because the RV is kind of a room, right? First time ever. Turns out it works. And the nurse, the sheriff, Paul Rudd, and his son are going to be staying the night in the RV and trying to fix the problem. This is where it's kind of interesting, right? Because it's like, how do you explain to people that, okay, there are monsters that come out at night and you gotta get inside. Because like the Paul Rudd family, they kind of think that it's just a normal town. They're just kind of lost. But no, there's something else going on. This is also where we get like a scene. I honestly completely forgot this scene happened because I binged the show, right? I got to season 3. Sarah murders Jade's friend. He didn't even get to become a character, really. He just got killed off real quickly. And she's doing it, as implied, because she's hearing voices. Now, that's another mystery that they have yet to resolve, and it's in season 3 now. I'll get to that. I've got a long list of mysteries that I hope they can solve, because honestly, it keeps getting more and more confusing at this point. I know I'm criticizing the show a little bit, but I really like the show a lot. That's why I'm making this video. I love the show, but I've got questions as well, you know. I love the scene here. I basically love any scene that involves these creepy things from the woods. They kind of hear something in the, some noise outside, and they're like, they're coming.
They're coming.
Slowly approaching the RV. It's such an intense scene. The nurse and Boyd, they know what to expect. They know what to be afraid of, but not Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd's kind of like, oh, hey, they're back. Like the people that left, like the deputy. Let's let them in. It's just like, no, do not do that. Paul there. I think his name's Jim, actually. I don't know. Yeah, it's confusing to me because he looks so it's like Jim is the Paul Rudd guy. I really confused the shit out of this video.
Is everyone okay in there?
They're back.
No.
Wait. They came back for us.
I think Jim actually tries to let them in. I don't know why he puts up such a fight to do it. Like, he's just like, if you're not going to let them in, I'm going to.
I'm not letting them in. Oh, hey, Jim. Oh, I need you to... They are not people and we are not here to help you.
The sheriff has him in like a chokehold and he's like, don't make me okay, it's not that intense, but it's way more intense than it needed to be. Paul Rudd really wanted to let those people in.
We're good. Let's go.
I love this scene in Colony House where I didn't mention, but the SUV they were driving away in, the kind of trucks, and they left the spikes out on the road, which they shouldn't have been using in the first place. Let's be real here. They had to get out of the vehicle and they had to run to Colony House. Now, in this town, there are basically 2 sections to it. You got the town itself, regular like neighborhood houses, and then you got Colony House. Colony House is just a big house where a lot of people live in. And they're kind of right now anyways divided. There's like a faction system going on. It doesn't really matter by like episode 5. It kind of dissolves into like we're all together. Right now they're like, okay, we need to get to Colony House because that's the closest place where we can be safe, and they're like kind of worried they won't be let in.
Runners on the hill!
But this is a scene where I love it because it's like the door is locked. The guy's, the classic guy with the shotgun. You saw him in like Resident Evil 8.
What are you doing? Open the door!
Those aren't our people.
He's like, I'm not letting you in.
Louisa! Open up! It's me, Elena!
Up, shouting. You'll draw the monsters.
Julian, let us in.
No, they'll smell the blood. You'll endanger us all.
It's Steve Garrett from the library. Please, let us in. Find another place to hide, Steve. I have others with me. We've nowhere else to go. One woman here is pregnant.
And yeah, these things are just slowly approaching them. This is where a confusing thing happens here. And this is another mystery that's set up that's not really resolved yet anyways, right? Yet. They still have... there's season 4 coming. Okay, so basically Jim's daughter looks at one of these creatures that's approaching her on the porch, and this thing says to her like Julie or something, right? That's
Julie. Hey, what are you doing?
Don't you recognize me?
Julie, like, don't you recognize me? I don't know if they're trying to imply that the characters can like, if they can like, I don't know, shapeshift into recognizable people. I don't think that's the case, but at the same time, I think instead these creatures are trying to confuse you so they can buy time to approach you. Although their entire goal and what it's kind of said to be later on is like these things walk towards you instead of running because they never run. They walk because they know you're trapped and it's only a matter of time before they get you. So they don't really need to buy for time in this situation. This thing is only trying to torment Julie by confusing her, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's a little odd. Maybe I'll circle back to this, right? And this is something I never mentioned, but you can't shoot them. The deputy tries to shoot them. At this point, he should know that it doesn't work because it really doesn't do shit at all, actually. And I apologize for the cursing. They can't even feel it. So why even carry a gun, right? Unless it's for the people. But yeah. Okay, so speaking of guns, this is a funny scene with the deputy, with the sheriff and Paul Rudd or Jim. Jim's like, okay, you've got a gun. Why don't you use it?
Because it won't do any good. just gotta trust me.
The sheriff's like, just trust me, it's not going to do you any good to try. And then Paul Rudd says, like, I don't know you.
I don't know you.
And it's just like, I don't know, this guy, you're buying the story up to the point where you believe him that there are creatures outside and you would want a gun to deal with the problem, but you don't believe him when he says the guns aren't going to work. Like, do you think they're just, I don't know, regular people? Other way you say it, like, cut it. I don't know you is a weird dialogue piece. It's a weird thing for him to say. But then the people outside the RV start talking. And I love this. It's so creepy.
So, come on.
They're just like regular people. So the deputy, Kenny, his father that I mentioned that you shouldn't get attached to, he's playing chess with basically his caretaker, right? And we get some foreshadowing here for something that happens later. The deputy himself and even the sheriff, honestly, they both at different points say that they're kind of getting sick of discovering the bodies.
After what happened to Lauren and Megan, I feel like I'm hanging on by a thread here.
The deputy says it first in this episode. I'm talking about episode 2 right now. And I think by episode 3, the sheriff then says it, like he's tired of seeing the bodies. I bring up that aspect of it because the writing in this show can be a little interesting sometimes. Yeah, it'll become more clear what I'm talking about when I get to later episodes. Speaking of Sarah, Sarah's the person that killed Tony Stark's friend, right? So she left the door open to that place. And this is all due to the voices. She just left the door open. And then we get this really scary scene. Door is wide open and you see these things just smiling back, looking down the hallway. It's so creepy. It's so good. Yeah, things don't end well for Kenny's father or his caretaker. The next day, after all this drama, big day. I mean, not a good day. Big day, though. Unfortunately, he's one of my favorite characters as well, the deputy sheriff. He discovers the body. Like, he notices the door is open and he's like, immediately, that's the worst thing you can see because you know what that means. Everything's very gruesome. They always kill the people in very specific ways, in a very, like, always a certain way. And it seems like they're eating them, and that'll play into season 2, actually. The deputy sheriff is living there with his family. Basically, his mother works at the diner with Sarah, and he works as the deputy sheriff.
I needed some wood for the new set.
Hates losing people, and it really gets to him later. It's kind of foreshadowing as to, just kind of how he develops as a character. And then episode 2 ends with a very creepy kid kind of staring at Paul Rudd's son. And that kid's going to become a very important character, actually. So, take notes of the character. Very creepy, though. But yeah, I'm going to call it here for now. There's a lot more to talk about with season 1, but I'll save that for another video. So make sure you're subscribed for that. Thank you for leaving comments and liking the video, of course. And yeah, make sure if you like what you see, check out my Fallout series review. I've reviewed the entire series. Season 2 is going to be coming in like a year or 2, right? So get prepared. But yeah, thanks again, and thank you for watching.
Super mutants fall, they can't last. Through the desert night he roams. Ghouls and creatures find no home.